We both have surnames no one can say, so it's always a good start.
Oh, we nearly fell down the back of the stage. Right, this has been a smooth start, hasn't it? Hello, everybody. I'm Matt. I'm the CMO at Rightmove, and I'm here to talk to Gill about leadership and to ask her questions, and then I will hopefully not say very much and let her get on with telling you about her leadership journey. I'm going to introduce Gill a little bit because she'll be too modest and will say not enough about her. So Gill is, I think, a successful leader across a number of different industries. She's worked for media owners, she's worked for agencies, and most recently kind of matchmakes brands and agencies together. She did that for us, so she brought us together with Neverland, our creative agency, and has done it for numerous brands around the UK and beyond. Spending time with Gill is crushing for my already fragile ego because her way of working, her approach to leadership, her approach to people means that everybody wants to spend time with her. So effectively, whenever you're standing with her, people push you out the way to talk to Gill, which takes some getting used to, but is a big compliment to the way in which Gill works. So, is that enough?
I think I'm done. See
okay,
ya.
fine.
We've had it.
I shall shut up now. So, just to get us started, a very simple question. What does leadership mean to you?
I love that. A simple question. Just
You're
can
welcome.
You encompass everything
Horribly
in 3
open.
sentences? Yeah. I guess for me and the experience I've had is probably 3 things. Firstly, you want leaders who tell a story or create a vision or a sort of North Star that you really want to be part of, and you can understand how your role can be part of that. And those people are people you want to do well by because you know where they're going and they've told it to you in a human way. You know, it's not just data or sales, it's this is where we're going. So that's one part of it. I think also the other part is creating a space or having a space created for you that you can be the best version of yourself, because we're all different. We all have different ways of working. We all need different things. And it's recognizing and acknowledging that and allowing people to do that. And then the third one, to sort of paraphrase location, communicate. You cannot over-communicate with people. I did say earlier you can overshare, so don't do that. But being communicating in a frank, honest manner, and I think I'd say since, and I feel like COVID's been spoken about a lot today, what accelerated that is I think businesses are much better, or had to become much better at communicating with people, but treat people as the adults they are, and you can't over-communicate what's going on where you are, and sometimes you have to deliver bad news, but do it in a human manner would be the sort of 3 things for leadership that I have had brought to me and still do. I still obviously have leaders, one is here, I think, Richard Robinson, there you are, who behave in that way, and that's how I want to behave to the people who are in my teams. And
you referenced COVID there, and you talked about, well, I think the world has changed in so many different ways, whether it be cost of living, COVID, Brexit, any number of different things. So I think the workplace looks undeniably different from whenever you started working, which could be any number of years ago. How have you adapted that approach, and have you adapted that approach? And is that something you've done consciously? Is that something you've done as a consequence of inspiration from others? How have you approached that changing environment?
So first of all, I started using a computer as opposed to a typewriter and hammer and chisel. But yes, I started in media agencies in the 90s, which were fairly boysy, I think might be a term for them. A few people I've worked with will say that, where it was very much probably command and control way of leadership. And you tended to be quite scared of the people at the very top. Yet I've been incredibly lucky that all the people I've had sort of leading me have been really genuinely good leaders. There's a few dreadful ones I'm not going to go into now.
At the back or not?
No, Richard Robinson, he's a good one. We're keeping him. But I think one of the things we probably have all become is, again, a bit more human. It's absolutely okay to show vulnerability, a bit of weakness. It's sometimes okay to show that you don't know all the answers. However, as a leader, in fact, Karen Stacey, who's the incoming president of WACL, said yesterday, when people are looking up to you as leadership, it's a bit like when you're on holiday looking at the weather. You don't want it to be raining. So you still need to, lead by example, but be honest. So I've definitely found that showing more of yourself isn't a weakness, it's a good thing, and being honest about what's going on, but still providing a direction. So definitely less command and control, and bring a team with you, because every person in that team has something to add and something of value. And I also have to say, I've been really lucky because all the people I've had in my team over the years have been fantastic and made me look fantastic, which is why I'm here, rather than just solo work. So that's my probably approach.
And you referenced people who I think have been good leaders, who you have looked up to. Interested to hear some of the traits of those good leaders, but equally some of the traits of the bad leaders. I maybe don't need to give the names of the bad leaders, but what have you learnt from both from a positive perspective, but also in terms of behaviours that you haven't found to be productive?
Yeah, that is a really good and difficult question. Again, I'm sure we thought we were just going to be easy questions.
I don't think I told you that one.
You did not. So no, I think allowing people to make mistakes and be there to help them when they make mistakes, but you need people to also find their own way. Now, there's certain things that there's very much a right and wrong way of doing stuff, but a lot of things we do in this environment, someone might have a better way, so giving them the space to do that is something I've had people do to me, and I have in times monumentally fucked up, and they've helped me out of that, or I've done something good, and that's been the way we do that. So definitely a good leader like that. Someone who listens as well as tells is really important, because we all have different experiences. I think we know, and the data tells us, the more diverse a team is, the better we do, and it's taking those kind of opinions. So those would be really good ones. Showing you what good looks like as well is really important, because how do we learn? If there's a really good example, showing you how to do something or why you should do that, I think is really important. In terms of bad leadership, it is this sort of no room for error, being afraid to make mistakes, because if you work in that environment, you actually don't learn, business doesn't move on. Having someone only look at you through their lens of experience, and I'd say starting, it's slightly different now, but probably when most of the people in senior leadership are middle-aged men who aren't going to necessarily take time off of parental leave, is a very different place to be in when you're sort of in your 20s. But people who understand that people have different life experiences and taking that on board and wanting to hear about it and acknowledge it is really important. People only looking through one lens of me is bad leadership, I'd say.
And bearing all of that in mind and taking all of those learnings, if you were to go back to the start of your career, what advice would you give a young Gill Huber?
Please, do more Pilates, definitely. But no, definitely, actually. I think worry less about the small things and take ownership of where your career you want to go. That doesn't mean that you just say, well, I want to be CEO and work on that, but definitely take some ownership, because the only person who can really manage your career is you. So understanding where you might want to go, you will definitely need help to get there, but be really clear on that and have a bit of a plan. Not in those awful interviews where they go, where do you want to be in 5 years? But definitely have a plan, except it might change. I think some of the best decisions I've made are probably taking lateral career moves and going into roles that were not exactly the next step up in the same business, and they have been the roles that have most rewarded me and advanced me. So taking some risks, having that more lattice career would definitely be something I would do. And probably speak up more when bad shit happens, and probably be a bit braver on that scale. And I probably made some very ill-informed shoe choices in my time as well. Go with flats now. That's always the way.
I'm
For
not
you
getting
too,
into.
yes, well.
I wasn't quite sure where to go there, but I'm just stay where I am, I think. On, I think on the subject of lateral career moves, I think that's something that a lot of, I think I've certainly benefited from, but I think is also bloody scary when it comes to doing it. There are career paths, and we're all talked about career paths, and if you do this, you'll get to the next stage. What inspired your choices? I'm hoping you weren't sacked at all the moments that made you change your career, but what made you decide that you wanted to make that move? And then where did you go about seeking advice, and how did you approach that?
That's so. Two things on that. I think once you've done it once, it makes it easier. And actually, in terms of leadership, when you're not the subject matter expert, so when you start a job, I started a media agency as a grad planner upwards. I probably know more than the person in my team as you get advanced. And once you get out of that, but you're still a leader, you actually have to really develop leadership skills and understand that you're not going to know everyone's job better than they do, and you actually need to bring them on with you. So once you've done it once, it makes it easier. I started looking about, where do I want to spend my time for the next 5 years? What parts of my role do I enjoy? What do I not enjoy as much? Sadly, admin is still in every job, but what kinds of things? And then I talk to people in different roles. We all work with different clients, different partners, about what kinds of roles there could be there. And I always have the conversation, have as many conversations with different people to understand what goes on in their roles, and understand what's part of that role, what's good, what's bad. And then at some point, you do need to take a leap of faith. If it's a bad mistake, you can always change. You're not necessarily forced to stay there. But go into it with your eyes open, that the first 6 months are going to be a bit like going into a washing machine, not really sure where you're going. But hold your nerve. Remember, you've generally gone through an interview process, you've talked. As long as you don't bullshit, that's usually a good way of going through those processes. And then take what your skill set are and apply it to a new role. And then you'll find that actually all that stuff you've learned over the years is invaluable to where you're going to go next. And then again, when you get to another stage, what are the things I like about this? You might develop new skills, but have those conversations, ask people, speak to a recruitment specialist, but be aware that, you know, that's them trying to talk to you about a role, and then take the risk and go for it. But remember, nothing is set in stone. You can always move again.
And not to build on that, not to get too deep about it, but you talked about sort of recognising your own skill set and using that to your advantage and building around that. How do you recognise your own skill set? How do you...
Still trying to find out.
Well,
Right?
you and me both. But having that self-awareness and trying to understand what is it that I'm good at, how have you approached that, and how's that developed over time?
Another one you weren't going to warn me about.
Correct.
I think one of the big challenges is anything you're relatively good at, you kind of think's easy, whereas other people look at it and go, oh, that, you know, you're really, and anything that's hard, you sort of see other people doing. So it's recognising and getting feedback from people, and people give you feedback all the time. Sometimes we don't always want to listen to it, and sometimes it's about asking for that feedback. And I you know, have to spend your time going, honestly, you know, am I good at that? You know, have I reached the sort of top level where I want to go with that, and how much am I going to need to do that if I want to go further in this line? Like, for instance, some people are really good at a certain skill, go up and up and up, and some people are really good and really enjoy managing teams and don't want to do the national specifics. So you kind of have to have quite an honest conversation with yourself. And I think you have to review it fairly regularly. There's a lovely chap called Richard Eyre, not the film director, but equally successful, who always has a sort of year review. He's very happily married with his wife, about what they've been doing, where does he see himself. And I think taking stock of what you've done, what you've enjoyed, what you've not enjoyed, and what skills you think you've developed are really important. It sounds really wanky, but it really does help, because you do need to sort of have a bit of introspection, or you'll suddenly find 5 years have passed and you're not really sure what's happened.
And last one, I guess looking back, you play a proactive role with Wackle. It'd be really interesting to sort of hear about the role that they play and how that sort of plays into building some of the amazing female leaders that are working now, but also building those leaders of the future as well.
Yeah, I think things like Wackle and Bloom are fantastic organisations, and I would urge people to investigate. And they're not by any means the only ones. And there's industries, organisations such as Creative Equals, things like that. There are. I would definitely advise getting involved in those kind of areas. I would also advise. Everyone here could be an excellent mentor. It doesn't really matter what your level is. You've always got something to give. And actually giving something back and advising and supporting other women and men in this, we all need allies as well, is really important. And you, again, it sounds cliche, but you do get as much back from them. In fact, most people I've mentored, I think, oh my God, you're going to be my boss one day, and I'm really happy about it. Because they're all brilliant. And you learn, and again, it gives you that other lens that you haven't quite understood. I'm of a certain age, and someone of the 20s had a very different life experience from me. So I would definitely say, reach out, try to get involved in more things, give something back. You will get stuff out of it. And organisations, and some people have very strong views on these organisations, but generally they're there to promote equality. That's it. I think we all agree that we want an equal opportunities for men and women and equal success. So for me, that's really important that we keep striving that equality. I'm very aware I am a middle-aged white woman of privilege. So my job is to make sure that I keep opening the doors for everyone else as well. And I think everyone needs to take a little bit of responsibility for that. And I try to. I don't always manage it, and I'm probably very clumsy when I do it, but I think that's important. We just need to keep bringing people up.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I just had a hand gesture, which I think meant we had a couple of minutes left. Yeah, it was something like that. Does anybody have any questions for Gill?
Or Matt.
Or Matt, yeah. About leadership, or frankly about anything else?
Oh, yes.
There's a question in the middle, and we only have 2 mics, so we may need to get you that.
Won't be able to hear you. That's all right.
Good answer now.
Won't be for me.
Is it an easy one?
No. A bit. What's your take on imposter syndrome?
Actually, I change my mind daily because I think and sometimes people are made to feel that they aren't, they are imposters, and that's different from, I do spend quite a lot of time thinking they're all going to find out and tell me it's been a dreadful mistake, so I definitely have a bit of that. However, there are times when people are made to feel that, and that isn't their point of view. And I would definitely say, I know as many men as women who do sometimes feel like this. And I don't believe in fake it till you make it, because I think that's almost impossible to do. So if you are feeling that you're not quite there, again, I often look at, and I had a very good friend who told me, they said, look at the data. You're doing your job well, you're getting good results, you're getting good feedback, so we all have that. You've been working for the last 30 years, you have good relationships, and that's what I tend to do, is try and go, do you know what, this is some of the data that is meaning that, and bad things happen, absolutely bad things could happen in your career, but it's not, I don't believe it, but I do sometimes think people are forced to feel it, and it's sometimes, you've got to take it day by day, because some days, so right now, I probably feel like a total fraud. Give me half an hour, I might feel a little bit better, but yeah. So does that help? You can't say no, there's no mic.
I think we're at time. Thank you. That was such a great panel. Thank you so much.